Imagine this, you're sitting at home and you just finished dinner. You didn't quite eat everything on your plate and you're planning to just throw it away. Well, if you were raised anything like I was, you had what my family called scraps. My sister and I absolutely hated with passion taking scraps out, especially at night. Growing up, we just knew to throw them out. It wasn't until I moved off to college that I learned that there are better ways to use those scraps for something beneficial, like composting. Today we're going to talk about what composting is and what type of containers can be used, what things are compostable, and how composting can help the environment. You've probably heard of composting before, but you may not fully understand what it is. Dictionary.com defines composting as a mixture of various decaying organic substances, such as dead leaves or manure, that are used for fertilizing soil. Essentially, composting is using your leftovers for fertilizer for your garden or grass. Microorganisms and worms break down those leftovers and various other substances in your compost pile. Their waste mixed with humidity and moisture turn it into fertilizer. Now that you have a better idea of what composting is, you can start to think about what type of container you want. First, you need to consider how big you want it and if you want to leave it in the same spot or be able to move it around. MotherEarthNews.com gives insight to two main types of container, starting with the stationary container. Typically, these are 10 to 15 cubic feet and are made of recycled plastic. Any container you want needs to have a lid on top to keep animals out, and it also needs to be dark in color to hold in heat and moisture. Stationary containers also have an open bottom, which allows worms and microorganisms to come in and do their job of decomposing what's inside. You also need to keep in mind how you're going to turn your compost, which brings us to the second type, the tumbling compost barrel. These are a little smaller at 5 to 12 cubic feet, and they sit on their sides so you can just rotate them, which speeds up the decomposing process. After you have your container, you can start adding in your scraps to what's inside, which brings us to topic number 2. What is compostable? There's a general rule that there are two main topics, or categories, browns and greens. TheSpruce.com states that browns are considered fall leaves, pine needles, twigs, chipped tree branches, bark, straw or hay, sawdust, corn stalks, paper, dryer lint, and cotton fabric. A brown's job in a compost pile is to provide nutrients for the microorganisms in the worms, since they are mainly composed of carbon and carbohydrate-rich materials. Greens that are used in compost piles are grass clippings, coffee grounds or tea bags, vegetable or fruit scraps, eggshells, and animal manure such as horse, cow, sheep, chicken, and rabbit. You can never use dog or cat manure because of the harmful parasites and bacteria found in their feces. Greens are composed of nitrogen and protein, and they do the job of heating up the compost. This allows growth in microorganisms and also helps them to multiply. So those are your two main topics of things that are compostable. And now that you have things inside of your compost barrel doing their job, the question of does this actually help the environment might come to mind. Well, it does. MakeDirtNotWaste.org gives insight about different effects that waste and landfills have on the environment. By burning trash in landfills, it releases methane and harmful greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Composting helps reduce those greenhouse gases because there's less trash in landfills to burn. By using the end product produced by composting as fertilizers on garden, it creates what MakeDirtNotWaste.org calls upstream benefits, which means that runoff from compost fertilizers would not pollute streams surrounding farms. By using compost on farms, it reduces the use of synthetic chemical fertilizers, which use an extensive amount of fossil fuels to produce and are also detrimental to environmental and human health. There's also a decreased use in pesticides, which are not good for human consumption. And lastly, composting helps improve the quality of the soil by enriching it with more carbon dioxide, which is important for plant growth. In summary, we talked about what composting is, which is a mixture of various decaying organic substances, such as dead leaves or manure, used to create fertilizer. We also talked about two main types of containers that can be used, stationary and the tumbling compost container, and the two main categories of things that are compostable under browns and greens. We also talked about ways that composting can improve the environment by helping reduce the production of harmful greenhouse gases. After listening to this speech, I encourage everyone to go home and do some more research on composting and start their own composting station at their home.